Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas. And today I have with me Ed Halsey over in the UK. Ed is founder of Evermore Digital. Ed, how's it going today?
It is going amazing, thank you. It's 9 o'clock at night, so here in the UK. So my son's in bed. I've managed to have a glass of wine before I've come on.
I was going to say.
So life couldn't be better, and I get to join you.
Awesome.
Yeah, life's been good.
So for the listeners, I almost always log into the podcast and chat for 5 to 10 minutes to break the ice before we start recording. And to figure out who is it that I have today, because most of the time I don't remember. And this time, I wish I'd recorded the conversation. That was one of the best getting to know somebody conversation. But the first thing that Ed did is basically convince me to spend $1,000 in upgrading my equipment. Because as you can see, if you're on video, or as you can hear, if you're just on the podcast side, his equipment is way, way, way nicer than mine. So you can thank him when my quality significantly improves here in a couple of weeks.
But remember, Tony, put it all through the business so that your loved ones don't find out what you spent on it. It's it's a work expense.
So my girlfriend and I, longtime girlfriend, 8 years now, we're both in insurance. We're both CPCUs. We don't have kids. We have separate finances completely. I pay my half of rent, and as long as I pay my half of rent, she laughs at the stuff that I buy because she's a monk. She's a minimalist and buys nothing ever. And I have Amazon coming in like every half an hour, right? She laughs at stuff that I buy, but I don't have to justify it. It's a wonderful life.
To be fair, I have to. To my wife's credit, she literally, I don't think she's ever said no to anything anyway. She just, if I want to buy something, she just says, yeah, fine. If you earn the money, and if that's what you want to spend it on, you go and spend it on it. She's very understanding. As you got the tour of my room, and you got to see all the geeky stuff that the audience at home won't be able to see. But this is like geek heaven. There's just geeky collector stuff everywhere. And she just kind of just shrugs and says, if it makes you happy, buy it. She's great.
That's awesome. So Ed and I have been connected on LinkedIn for like 3.5 years, and somehow we never actually chatted. And this week he shared this, or I should be saying you shared, because I'm introducing you to the audience, but really I should be chatting with you. You shared this image, 10 things I hate about the insurance industry. Which of course I had a heart attack and booked my flight to England to slap you for that, and immediately invited you to the podcast. And we will talk about a lot more than just this, but we should definitely start with this. I will include the image that you shared underneath us, so if you're on YouTube, you'll be able to see the image. But in case you're just on audio, we'll kind of read them one by one. And just kind of let's chat about them. So let's see, things that you hate about the industry. Number one, we were not there for our customers when COVID-19 hit.
So this was let me take a step back. Firstly, I think a lot of people looked at this in isolation and kind of went, being very negative about the industry we love. And you've got to look at it in context, right? And we'll talk about this later, I'm sure, but content is content. Content creates discussion points. And sometimes you have to put a discussion point out there, often that maybe you don't even agree with. Actually, just something that you're putting out there to get a reaction, to try and start a conversation about an important issue. And if you look at it in isolation, it's very negative. 10 things I hate about the insurance industry. Look at the context of it. There is a movie called 10 Things I Hate About You. So I'm following the trend of that. Equally, I had previously posted 10 things that I love about the insurance industry. And I think there are loads of things to love about the insurance industry. I think it's amazing.
I'm assuming that one got 1/10 of the hits or the views and comments that you got from the 10 things I hate.
So all I'm saying is, content's content. It's if you wanted the positive stuff, and this would be my message to people generally, right? We talked about this briefly beforehand. If you want a certain type of content on LinkedIn, engage with the content you want. That everyone tells me all the time, I want professional content. I want content that adds value. I want this, I want that. And then they ignore all that content and they like pictures of dogs.
But here's the thing. I think that there doesn't need to be those are not mutually exclusive things. Like professional doesn't have to mean boring. like fun can also be informative if done well. And I think there is a place for you were telling me earlier about that 12 hours of research that you put into a single piece, and you had quotes from multiple insurance companies, and then it gets 40 views. That's one extreme, and I do think there is a place for white papers.
Yeah, there is.
But I think that there's a happy medium of informative and also engaging.
And I think the reason you don't see a lot of that content, I think why you either see silly and meaningless, or you see really informative and dull, is because there is a real art and there is a real skill set required to make something boring interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a skill.
And I think in our industry, in insurance, at least here in the US, most insurance companies, the carriers, are big enough that whoever is creating content is a professional content creator, a professional marketing person, and they don't understand much of what the company does, right? So I would love to see us empower our actual employees that actually do insurance every day, right? But carriers are petrified at the idea of letting people who are not marketing experts or PR experts put stuff out.
It's really interesting you say that. I had and we will get back to the 10 things I hate about insurance, but we're kind of riffing. But I got a really interesting message yesterday from someone on LinkedIn who will remain nameless. But they kind of confidentially messaged me. I don't think what they said they're worried about me sharing confidentially. I just wouldn't share their name. But they said, how do I create? I love what you do, but you work for yourself. So if you put something out there that sets a tone or talks in a certain voice or whatever it might be, that's on you and you pay the consequence of it. I work for an employer and I'm terrified that I will post something that they will frown upon or that they will message me and say, stop posting that. And they said, how do I get around that? And my initial advice was, well, firstly, I'm going to be really clear about this. Your LinkedIn is not the ownership of your company that you work for. It is nothing to do with them. How you present yourself on LinkedIn, they can frown at it all they want, but ultimately it is your right. It's in the terms of service. It is your personal website, and your personal brand is actually far more important than their brand as a company. And an employer who doesn't recognize that does not understand marketing in 2021. You are 10 times more likely to get engagement on your personal LinkedIn page from a post that you put of your opinion than you are your company page. And that tells you something.
99% of carriers in the US do not get marketing in exactly in the way that you described it. And every content creator in the States within the insurance universe that I know, every one of them has gotten in trouble at the company they worked for. Every one of them has either gone independent or changed jobs because their original company didn't like the content they were creating.
And what a shame. What a shame.
Oh my God, it's such a waste, an absolute waste. And quite simply an absolute waste. On the other hand, the few times that the carriers actually try to do things in social media, so to speak, they're so ham-fisted. Like I remember maybe a year and a half ago, Allstate won an award of some sort. I can't remember what the exact award was. And all of a sudden, my Twitter feed lit up with literally hundreds of Allstate employees sharing the exact same message about it. Like quite a very clearly PR written, PR canned message that either they didn't get the chance or they were discouraged or they just weren't told, please make it yours.
Yeah, because they didn't understand it. I mean, I still think in insurance, I mean, I've talked about this a few times before and I posted on it. If you look at the average social selling index, you know what the social selling index score is on LinkedIn? Mm-hmm. Have you seen that?
Yep,
so
absolutely.
It's a score on kind of 4 metrics about essentially how well you use LinkedIn. Now, I'm not a firm believer in that as a metric. I think a lot of the metrics are actually wrong and drive the wrong behaviors. That's for another day. But the average social selling index score of a sales professional in the insurance industry, what do you think it is out of 100?
It's probably a 5 out of 100.
It wouldn't surprise me, but it's actually 22. but 22 out of 100, we're using as an industry, typically we're using social media, if we use that as an indicator, to about kind of 75%, to 25% or 22%, sorry, of its efficiency. And that's so poor. And it's because training's so poor. And actually, and I'll bring this back to 10 things I hate about the insurance industry. And one of the things I said was, actually, if we look at number 7 and number 8 on my list, number 7 being we can't seem to attract talent within our industry. And number 8, we're so far behind the curves with digitization. And by digitization and talent, I actually mean some of the digital skills that we've got. It amazes me how many people in the insurance industry still really can't find their way around a computer. If you said to the average person in insurance, oh, that profile picture of yours, I'll just cut the background out of it. They'd look at you like you were alien. You work on a computer all day. Just get like paint.net. It's free. Paint.net is free. Download it tomorrow. You don't need Photoshop, although, get Photoshop if you want. But there's plenty of tools to do that kind of thing. And maybe I'm.
Well, part of it is we're an old industry. Our workforce is, at least here in the States, on average, a lot older. So that's part of it, right? It's a workforce that didn't grow up with those tools. By the way, I hadn't ran my SSI for a while, so I just ran it. So I have a 77 out of 100. And then it compares me to people in my industry. Sales professionals in the insurance industry have an average SSI of 21. You rank
it's dropped, 21.
Yeah, it's crazy. And by the way, I do it with zero budget.
Yeah.
Right. I do it. I share the stuff that I wish more people were sharing. And I love the idea of interact with the content that you want there to be more of, because that's what's going to, right? The signal is going to go through, and people are going to create, and companies are going to create more content like that. So I 100%.
Vote with your feet. Vote, or in this case, vote with your fingers. Like, comment, share the stuff that you really like, and let the creators know, because and also I just beg people of this: stop kidding yourselves, right? You're allowed to be human. Yeah, you're allowed to find a picture of a dog nice. You're allowed to go on LinkedIn in the day and read a funny article and not feel guilty about the fact it's a distraction from your day. You don't have to pretend that I only go on LinkedIn for professional. I'm only looking. You don't. Sometimes you go on it to waste 20 minutes while you're having a coffee, chat to a few people in the industry about fun things, and have and relax and tap out for a bit. And that's fine. And be all right with that. Be comfortable with it.
One of my many random activities, it's Chat with Tony. Chatwithtony.com. I give career advice to an insurance professional for free. And probably 10%, no, maybe 5% of people that call into everybody that calls in is looking for their next job, right? That's why they're contacting me. And maybe 1 out of 15 or 1 out of 20 of them doesn't have a LinkedIn profile at all. And it blows my mind. And when you ask them why, how, like first of all, like you need one if you're gonna do a job search. But number 2, why don't you have one? Oh, I don't want my employer to think that I'm looking. There's so much more to LinkedIn today than just being an online resume for your job search. It's crazy.
And shame on their employers for not training them to understand that, and not encouraging it and not promoting it. I mean, I've said I work or have worked a lot of my career in technology sales within the insurance sector. So for DXC, who you may well be familiar with in the States, and Automation Anywhere, who are a big San Jose-based company. I'm hoping I'm allowed to name drop them. Oh, well.
Oh, yeah, you can name drop whoever you want.
I have. Yeah, just clang. I'm just dropping names. But yeah, so I've worked for them, and big companies, and it amazes me. And I'm not saying these companies, but I've worked within that space with other professionals. It amazes me how I go by the tagline: I would never hire a salesperson in 2021 who doesn't have an active social media presence.
Oh, it's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
It's like hiring someone who goes, you get the guy in and you say to him, oh, so you're going to be or guy or girl in, and you say to them, you're going to, right, what's your sales strategy? And they go, yeah, well, I don't really use a phone and I can't work email. And you go, brilliant. Well, I'll hire you for sales. Oh, yeah, but I don't really like talking to people. Oh, okay, good. Right. So what? how are you going to sell? Like you need to be able to, it's just one of the many tools. And I think social selling particularly is a really powerful tool. It's a really poorly used tool. But I think, you've got a phone, you've got email, you've got content, you've got email, you've got LinkedIn, you've got Twitter, you've got Instagram, you've got TikTok. There are people, it hasn't really come over to the UK, but I see a lot of insurance agents in the States doing TikTok stuff right now. I wonder if
how successful they are.
I don't know how successful they are, but they're creating a lot of content. And that's a channel that others aren't on. And if you're actually, when you look at that when you look at that as an approach, okay, so there's LinkedIn and we've got all of these people on LinkedIn producing content, loads of them. If you're one of 100 people producing content on TikTok, what's the chances of cutting through the noise compared to being one of 1,000 people or 10,000 or 1 million people on LinkedIn? So actually, being the first to it, someone was talking to me today about Clubhouse. And actually, he said to me, if you don't get on, he said, go now. I don't have an iPhone. Unfortunately, I have a Huawei. He said to me, if you don't get, he said, as someone who's a content creator, he said, if you don't get an iPhone this week, you're going to miss the boat. Please get an iPhone, get on Clubhouse now while there are only a handful of people on there, and be one of the handful creating, don't join it in a year. If you join it in a year, the bubbles burst, you've lost your opportunity. And Gary Vaynerchuk is a great example of that he was in really early on SEO, on Facebook, on creating video, on creating content. And he's now on to, iteration 3, 4, 5, 6. He's done it. Been there, done that, leveraged that. It's gotten old. It's become too competitive. He's moved on to the next. He's still doing that, but has moved on to the next stuff too. I find content creation and using that and social selling as a tool to drive leads. And anyone who said loads. So someone said to me the other day, they went, so basically all you do now as a job is you mess around on LinkedIn and YouTube. And I put a post up about that. I was like, that's lovely that you think that's all I do. And if you think I'm paying my bills by doing that, then it's very naive. But it does drive a lot of leads and it drives a lot of activity and a lot of conversation. You and I would not be talking now, probably, had you not seen my post that I put up.
I've got to say, I do on my side pay the bills by hanging out on LinkedIn every day. Now on my side, I have.
I need to ask you how then.
Insurance staffing. I work for the largest one in the States, Jacobson Group. I have a very nice base salary. And basically, I spend all day on LinkedIn trying to figure out how to get in front of insurance leaders. But I'll tell you one thing. Insurance leaders, my target audience for actual Jacobson business is probably in their 50s on average. 80% of what I post is not particularly attractive to them. But I do get enough recognition from them to bring in business. But ultimately, give it another decade as the leadership turns and the next generation of leaders is in. And I should be handling like 70% of all hiring within insurance in the States.
and that's how long-term a play it is. Often people don't get it. And I talk about the fact that people with social selling and with content creation, they'll go on. And I've taught this week, I put a post out that I'd urge people to have a look at. It's my methodology of how I get leads and how I use it. It's the curve methodology. So have a look at my LinkedIn page, which hopefully Tony can link, or it'll
be linked when I release the podcast. Absolutely.
So have a look at that. And that talks about how you create content. And it is a long-term play. It's about putting that content out. And loads of people miss the last one, which is engagement. It's the E for engagement in Curve. And what they do is they log in once a month. They share their company's post that's boring and that they didn't even read themselves. They just hit like and pressed share and added no commentary to it. Or they write a little piece and then like one person likes it and it's their mum. And the girl they used to work with in the office that they had a fling with. It's like, that's the only two people that like it. And they go, social selling's rubbish. It doesn't work. And you're like, you haven't done any social selling. Where was the social part of it? You literally walked into a bar, shouted at everyone in the bar, and then walked out and wondered why no one followed you. What? What?
You can post the best content and whoever engages with it and you don't engage with them,
Mm.
yeah, you've completely wasted your time. Like you might as well.
Or comment on other people's posts, because that's the other thing. It's not just about what you post. You can post the most amazing content in the world, but if you aren't engaging with other people and giving them reason to engage with you, and you aren't writing in a way that draws other people in, then what do you expect? It's you get back what you put in. And if you're not doing it for other people, how entitled are you that you think they should do it for you?
And I think that's the hardest part is that understanding, which takes time, that you really get much more out of it if you engage, and if you engage with others' content, and over time your network grows. That is incredibly hard for insurance professionals because they are conservative, they are traditional, they are careful. They like to keep their cards close to their vest traditionally. So it's so hard for them to button down and just engage. And if you say the wrong thing, that's fine. Like we'll figure it out, right?
It's fine.
Your career is likely not over unless you like go off the deep end.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things just don't say.
Exactly.
We all know, but they're the same things that people tell you not to talk about. Don't talk about religion. Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about anything contentious. Like, just avoid those topics. They're not for your professional profile. It would be my opinion. And as long as you avoid those topics, actually you're pretty safe. I mean, I'm talking about social selling. How offended? In fact, I'd love to do this challenge on a future podcast with you. Let's see how offensive we can be about social selling. Like, what's the worst? Someone's going to go, well, I don't agree with that opinion. Like that, it's not an offensive topic. It isn't an emotive topic. People aren't going to get angry about it. You're not going to offend people. So yeah, I think people are just, I think a lot of people are just scared of it and don't understand it. And I think employers need to do a better job of empowering people to use it, because I think it's fantastic. And I think you alluded to it there previously. It's about engaging with other people and then they engage with you. And for me, I talk about it like creating a tribe of followers. And I look at someone like Joe Hollier. I don't know if you know Joe, but Joe with the Insurance Scramble. I did a bit of work with Joe on the Christmas Spectacular, and I did a little skit for them on that and recorded it. He reached out to me. He was very flattering, which always works with me, and very kind, and said, "Oh, I like some of the stuff you're doing. Love to get you involved." Yeah, absolutely. Recorded that video. Obviously, like not getting why would I get paid for it? It's not paid. I just did it because it was fun. But now Joe, I would consider Joe one of my tribe, because when I post content, Joe likes my content and comments on my content because I've done something. And you kind of go and collect this tribe of people who are supportive of you. And I put a post out recently. I said, the point at which I became successful was the point at which I stopped worrying about what my haters thought and the people who didn't like what I was doing thought, and started worrying about what I call my cheerleaders. The people who are supporting me, the people who are there, do what they want. Do the things that they would be proud to be associated with, things that they want to see, because they're the ones who'll get you in front of people. They're the people who will open doors for you.
That is absolutely fantastic advice. Absolutely fantastic advice. And you said something really important there, which is I did it for free. That is the remnant of a transactional type of thinking, right? And our economy, both in the US and the UK, right, a very industrial, traditional economy. Yeah. If you made anything in your factory, and gave it away, you're losing money, right? And we have that thinking that if I do something for you and I don't charge you, I'm losing money. And the reality is that in the digital world, that's not at all true. Right? It's in the social realm, that is not at all true. In fact, the more that you do for free, the more that will come back to you later. And so what for the listeners, if you are a W-2 employee here in the US, a full-time employee, take advantage of the fact that whatever carrier or whatever insurance broker or whatever insurtech or whatever is paying you a paycheck, and spend lots of your free time giving to your network free stuff, free content, free advice, free whatever, because eventually, if you decide to go off on your own, and the opportunities are just going to come your way, right? The opportunities are just going to come your way.
And I think as well, it's a chance to have chats. Chats are, people underrate chats. They go, oh, it's just wasting time, like, blah, blah. Like today, I mean, it was very generous of you to pay me $5,000 to be on your podcast today. But I come on here and we get to have a fun chat and we get to talk about people. Oh, I know that person and I know that. And we get to know each other. Now we might find a way to do... I've got you with that one, haven't I? Is there going for $5,000? Oh, yeah.
For reference, the entire budget to run insurance nerds for the year is not quite $5,000. I'm pretty sure we run the entire company, if you can call it that, for less than that a year. Anyway, go ahead.
But you get the so you get into these chats with people, you get into conversations, you build your tribe, and then that leads to work. So I started off doing things like vendor spotlight. I run, which is a weekly show. We have vendors on, and we ask them about their technology offerings for the insurance sector. Now I'm a consultant at helping buyers buy and sellers sell technology with insurance. So it's on brand for me. It helps my customers to watch it. But equally, people go, well, why'd you do that? You create a podcast and you advertise for people. And I'm like, okay, I get your point, but what you're missing the bigger picture. I'm now in a conversation with that vendor, and guess when they need training on sales or want help on content or who do they ring? And actually of the I probably can't say the exact numbers, but I end up consulting for a lot of companies that I end up having chats with or doing content with, or because you get on with them and you chat and you find ways that, oh, you do that. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Actually, I need some help with that. And you're in the forefront of their mind. And that's the biggest challenge for me, is getting social selling. For me is not about selling. It's not about connecting to a stranger and throwing something at them and going, here's a sales pitch. It's about connecting with them, showing them the things that you're good at, demonstrating them to them over time, and being front and center of their mind, so that when that project comes up, they're thinking, that guy that I saw that did that silly video over Christmas, he'd be really good at this. Let's give him a call and see if he can do it, because I've seen him do it already. That's kind of my view on it.
Yeah, no, the opportunities just come. Yeah, obscurity is the biggest problem today.
Yeah.
If you can find a way to get noticed, and get noticed is a very old-fashioned term, but if you can find a way to build a tribe around whatever message right? For me, it happened around millennials within insurance, and I didn't plan it that way. It just happened. I know another guy, Ralphie, who is a lawyer, and he was the newest lawyer in the firm. And they had some work around Medicare, which is a very thorny issue in the States. And nobody wanted to touch it. None of the senior lawyers wanted to touch it. So he's like, I'll do it. I don't know anything about it, but I'll learn it. and right, 15 years later, he's like, his entire career is built around speaking, writing, consulting. It's all around Medicare, because he became the expert on it, because nobody else wanted to do it. There are so many opportunities to do that, to become, right? There's a guy here in Atlanta, Georgia, where I live, who used to be the lead underwriter for, I want to say, travelers insurance when it comes to inland marine, to transportation insurance. And he realized that his clients, or the brokers working with him, called him the cargo guy, because he was excellent at underwriting cargo, and he was who they go, right?
There's your LinkedIn headline.
Precisely. About 4 years ago, he left Travelers and went on his own, started a consulting firm, advising companies on how to insure and protect their cargo. It's like he didn't plan on that.
No,
it's something he found interesting. He was good at, and he found his blue flame on that. It's hard to know up front. Just quite simply jump into the conversation, see what you enjoy, see what you can really get into.
I think as well, it's a natural human reaction that we worry far too much about people liking us. And anyone who's worked with me or for me or alongside me or with me will tell you, I am very much Marmite. To translate to the US, I'm very much Vegemite. You know, you either love me or you hate me. But my God, the people who love me, they take a bullet for me, and we will do business time and time again. And that's better than being vanilla.
And that's the 1,000 true fans thing that is now almost cliche, right? Except for in insurance. In insurance, 2/3 of people haven't heard 1,000 true fans. But yeah, that's all it takes to make a good living is a number of people who love what you produce. It doesn't matter if the other 90% of the world hates you, or doesn't care about what you do. There is a portion of the people that's going to love what you do, as long as it's sincere, it comes from the heart. It's you know, within our industry, it's technically good, so to speak. I am super curious. How did you end up, like your career? How did you grow up with insurance? What?
God. This is a story. You and I haven't had this conversation. This is really.
You were an underwriter at some point, according to your LinkedIn.
Yeah. So here's the fun part. I dropped out of university. So college, as you guys would call it. I dropped out of university at the end of my second year. I was on for a decent enough degree. I got offered a record deal, and I actually moved out to the States. And I lived in the States for a bit in Cleveland, in central Cleveland, and did the whole music thing for a while. And then when I decided that wasn't for me, I came back to the UK, and my parents said, you need to get a job. And I ended up as a few months later, and suddenly I'm underwriting property risks for Aviva. Got the job, really loved it, started off as a property underwriter, worked my way up through that. And over time, I was always the guy in the office that just got tech more than anyone else did. That's the only way I can really put it. You know, everyone's got that office, right? And they're the guy that gets, my phone's broken, can you fix it? And you're like, look, I'm not, like, I just know how to use software. I'm not. And they come to you for everything. And gradually over time, that became truer and truer. And I remember I was at AXA at one point, and I was kind of the technical underwriting referral point for an MGA who were bringing stuff into me. So scheme is a program in the UK. So it's not a scheme. I wasn't doing pyramid schemes and Ponzi schemes. It was it's what we call a program, unfortunately. And I was their technical referral on it. And I remember them saying to me one day, "Oh, we're really struggling because we have this manual underwriting guide that we have to basically go in and pick all the rates out and manually rate it, and we do it all on paper, and then we have to manually type out a quote letter and a policy schedule when they bind cover and blah blah blah." And I said, and they weren't hitting. I think they weren't hitting the numbers, but certainly it was a struggle for them. And I said, "Oh, I'll leave it with me." And I went away that weekend and I recreated the entire underwriting guide as an interactive spreadsheet, not just a spreadsheet. You know, there was Visual Basic in there, and I'd never written Visual Basic, but I learned it. I knew what I wanted to do, and I just went away and learned it. And that's gradually this move into tech, and then kind of gradually more and more working in tech and consulting on tech within my own companies. And then someone came to me one day and just said, actually, it was I was working on a big project for one of the big insurers over here as a consultant, and I looked at my career and I went, well, what's someone, a mentor of mine, lovely guy. I'm going to call him a mentor, whether he'd consider himself a mentor, who's had a big impact on my career. A guy called Frank Such, lovely chap, who I worked for. And I remember Frank sort of pulling me to one side at one point and saying to me, "Ed, you need to make a decision on what your future looks like." He said, "You know, you're at that point in your career. Do you want to be a technical underwriter? So do you want to go into head office and define rate and risk, or do you want to be a development underwriter? Do you want to be out in the market doing deals?" And I remember saying to him, "Which one pays more?" And he said, "Development underwriter." I went, "Yeah, I'll do that one." And kind of recognized that I didn't really have enough sales experience face to face at that point, and went and joined Allianz, who had just like an amazing, in the UK, they've just got an amazing sales program. I can't speak highly enough. You get loads of training, loads of support. I was lucky enough to work for two just absolutely brilliant guys, a guy called Ibi Mograbi, and a guy called Paul Titley. Paul's both are still friends of mine to this day. This was several years ago now. Just really great guys, and managed to really kind of put up with all my you might want to beat this, put up with all my bullshit as a 20-something a 20-something lad who was a bit full of himself, and they just put up with me. They let me get away with it as long as I was putting the numbers in. They tolerated me and helped me thrive. And that was kind of the glory years of my career. Really, I really enjoyed that time there, and I missed it desperately when that whole kind of that branch network. Basically, we were such a good branch, and we'd performed so well as a collective, as a team, that everyone started getting promoted. So it kind of broke up because, Ibby went and got given this role over here, and Paul was quite fascinating. He'd done all of his ACII qualifications, and one day he just announced that he'd jacked his job in, and he was going off to Gambia or somewhere to do some charity work in the banana fields or something. Look, just absolutely, I don't even know if there's banana fields in Gambia. That's ridiculous. But he went off somewhere to kind of I'm sure it was banana picking. Just gave up on the insurance industry and walked away from it. I digress. This is a very long story to get to the point of how did I get to where I am. But yeah, so and then ended up selling. Once I had that sales experience, ended up selling technology, and found that there was a real lack of the people either were salespeople or they were insurance people, and I was able to kind of translate insurance into technology, so marry the two of them, but still have the sales background to be able to kind of sell, and was made kind of head of sales of an insurtech offering. Had a great 5 years there, sold loads of software, helped build a business pretty much from startup through to scale up, I would say. Had a great time of it. Amazing. Loved it. And that's not quite where I've gotten to where I am, but then this is the next natural step for me, is using a lot of what I've learned along the way to help others do the same. As I say, help buyers buy and help sellers sell.
It's a fantastic story. And I think that the US market is very different. But I do think that all the people I know who are doing things they love and think they have a passion for somewhere within insurance, all kind of did the same thing, which was they followed their heart to whatever was interesting, to whatever was really fulfilling. And like none of them had like a plan from the beginning of where they wanted to go, or if they did, the plan, it's very different from where they are today.
There's fun in chaos. Someone said that to me last week. They said you can draw a lot from chaos.
Well, and within insurance, at least here in the States, I'm assuming it's similar in the UK, because we have such, because we're so bad at attracting talent and so bad at retaining it, you can take a gamble and go do something crazy within the industry, because you know that if it doesn't work out, you can go back to being an underwriter next year. like you're not blacklisted. We still need the talent.
and you, when I was saying earlier about, don't worry about upsetting people and don't worry about, not everyone needs to love you. I think that's the other thing. The insurance industry, we often use the word in the UK, certainly, that it's quite an incestuous industry. Everyone knows everyone. And they do, you think. And I remember when I was in my kind of, I guess probably in my mid-20s. No, probably a bit later than that, actually, probably in my late 20s. And I went to Bieber, like Billy Big Spuds. And I thought, I know everyone. I know everyone now. I've spoken to everyone. You go to Bieber and there's a room of 7,000 brokers there, and you go, I don't know anyone here. I know I know 8 people in this entire room. And you realize, actually, for that, what feels incestuous and what feels quite tight knit, actually it's a very big industry. And with anything like that, I was chatting to someone about marketing message the other day, a colleague of mine at another business involved with Hub. And he was saying to me that the fact of the matter is, you've got a massive industry. And when you've got a massive target base of clients, you can afford to get it wrong with a few of them. If you've only got 10 customers that you can sell to in the whole world, let's say you're an enterprise, let's say that I can only sell to public medical firms, and there's only like, in the UK we've got the NHS, that's it. I'd imagine, similarly in the US there's only, I don't know, say 10 entities. You've only got 10 of them, so you can't afford to upset the guy at the head of that company or get your messaging wrong, because you've just reduced your possible deal flow by 10%. But when you're selling to customers where your client base is in the millions, who cares if you upset 1 in 10 people? Like 90% of them still think you're not. I wouldn't say upset them. That's that you don't want to upset anyone. But who cares if they don't get your message or they don't like how you present something? You've got 9 people who are open to it.
And if the message wasn't for them, they just won't connect with it. It's very unlikely that they will be full on upset about it. It's more likely that they'll just go like, whatever, right? That doesn't mean anything to me, right? And it just disappears into the stream of content we all deal with. And then the few people that it connects with, it's meaningful to. So I'm
really meaningful, and they'll remember it for years ahead. I had a guy come up to me at that Bieber event that I was mentioning, and we, the company I worked for at the time, a software company called SchemeServe, we did some quite outrageous kind of marketing stuff. So we gave away purple top hats at this conference that everyone was walking around wearing. And one year we did a beach theme, and we had a tiki bar and a sand floor, and we were giving lays to people, everyone. And our tagline on the Bieber hashtag was "Come to stand D37 to get laid." It was it was that kind of, it was quite like just stupid and childish, really. But for us, it was all about just getting attention to the brand and just trying to get people there. And an older chap came up to me in his pinstripe and his oversized suit, and he said to me, "I just wanted to let you know this is all very silly, and you've really switched me off." And I just went, "Okay, thanks." He went, and he kind of just looked at me like, "Well, does that not bother you?" And I went, "Not really." He said, "Well, it should. I'm such and such at this business." I went, "And you're not my target customer." like in the nicest sense, if you want me to be upset that my marketing message hasn't resonated with someone it isn't targeted at, you're talking to the wrong person. Like, I hope it didn't offend you, but if it switched you off, like you weren't ever switched on, it didn't switch you off because you weren't ever switched on to my brand. It's a light switch. You're either engaged or you're not, and you weren't engaged to start with. So actually, all you really mean is it's left you unengaged with my brand. I've lost nothing. I'm not any further back than I was at the start. But it's that need for everyone to like you that kind of people think kicks in.
Absolutely, and we normally give whoever is in the podcast a chance to give their elevator pitch at the very beginning, what exactly they do. But you did warn me that you're not entirely sure what Evermore Digital does. So a quick question though, whatever it is that you do you do it for brokers both in the UK and in the US?
Yeah, I mean, I'm being flippant when I say I don't really know what I do.
Okay.
I know exactly what I do. I help. Ultimately, I help evangelize the use of digital channels within insurance, and that's a really broad topic. And that covers a wide range of sins. And that's on purpose because there's loads of cool stuff that people need help with, and there's loads of stuff I can help with. I don't want to say I design websites. I don't want to say I run ideation sessions. I don't want to pigeonhole myself to that extent. But if it's digital, and it's about digital marketing, digital distribution, systems, that's what I help with. Largely, I help buyers buy, and I help sellers sell technology. That's really where my thing is. But in terms of the UK and US, yes, absolutely. I do work for anyone, anywhere who, as long as they speak English, because I speak no foreign languages at all. I'm a classic Brit. I'm completely ignorant. I can do GCSE level French, and that's about it. But ask me much more than bonjour, and I'll struggle. So yeah, as long as it's a primary English language speaking country, then I've probably done some business with them at some point. But yeah, certainly the US, I've got a lot of through Twitter. Actually, I've got a lot of people I would consider friends actually in the States within the insurance industry. People I really enjoy engaging with regularly, and if they were in the same country, I would absolutely have them over for dinner. And that's how I judge friends versus colleagues, right? Would I have them over for dinner on a Saturday night? If I wouldn't, they're not your friend. They're someone you work with. Yeah, and there's lots of people I would have over.
On Twitter, and this is a question, a personal question for me, basically. Is there a hashtag where it's easy, a hashtag that where I can find the other engaged insurance professionals?
I think InsurTech is obviously a pretty common hashtag that everyone looks at. I mean, if you're in the UK, I think it's quite clicky. I think you've got to get in with one of the people who's in one of the cliques. And then I think you kind of ride there, and you kind of, what are they engaging with? I'm not saying copy what they're engaging with, but you kind of then start to see it on your feed, and then you get into conversations. I mean, there's some fantastic people to follow in that kind of InsurTech space, but don't follow. The other mistake people make is they follow brands. Don't follow brands. Follow people. Don't follow Apple. Come on. Like, what are you going to learn by following Apple? You'll just get their latest marketing message on the new phone that's coming out. Of course. Same with insurance companies. Same with InsurTech vendors and the like. Find the people who work for them. Find the people who are, and find their personal accounts and connect with those. Connect with people. Don't connect with brands. That would be my advice. And if you connect with people and you follow the things they're talking on, and you engage and you throw yourself into that conversation authentically, or don't say things you don't believe, and stand by the things you say. If you believe something, then be prepared to defend it, not aggressively, but be prepared to defend your position and discuss things with people, because that's what Twitter is, right? It's, here's my opinion on X, and then someone either disagrees with you or they don't. If you're not into that and you're not comfortable in that kind of a dialogue, Twitter is not the place for you. You're very upset very quickly.
So we never did touch on the 10 things that we started the conversation with, but I want to touch on one of them. Okay. Which is number 7. We cannot seem to attract or retain talent within our industry. In your opinion, why do you think that is, and what can we do about it?
So one of the criticisms that came back to me when I posted this from several people was they went, well, this is just you moaning. What are you doing to change it? And that's a really fair challenge, right? My pushback would be, I've only got 130 character limit. Come on. Like, there's only so much I can do in a LinkedIn post. Let's get to let's be realistic about what I can achieve. But why can't we seem to attract or recruit talent? I think because, and this is what I'm trying to do to change it. I think it's completely poorly. I think insurance as an industry, and James York said this on episode 4 of Grinding My Gears, which is a show that I run. So please check that out. I'm going to tout that now shamelessly. And James said this. He said, he thinks that there needs to be a kind of a central body who are responsible for PRing, promoting, and marketing the insurance industry. And I absolutely categorically agree with that. And I think the content you're creating and the content I'm trying to create as well is my whole view on it. You talk about millennials a lot, and that's kind of where I'm pitching it as well. And I have got a little something here because I saw your Superman and I wanted to match the energy by, I wanted to be the Batman to your Superman. So I did borrow this from my son just so that I could fit in. But no, so the content I'm trying to create is much like you. I want to create a different tone around it. Content is boring. Every way that the way that we talk about the industry, the topics we cover, the way we deliver them is boring. I hate to break it to you people, but I've lost your audio.
Sorry, I was muted. And there's absolutely no reason it has to be boring.
No, it doesn't.
We insure every interesting thing out there.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Yeah, I read this week that apparently we insure Beyonce's booty at London. I mean, what's more interesting than Beyonce's booty? Come on now.
If it exists, somebody insures it, especially if it exists in the US or the UK. So why don't we talk about that? So you're absolutely right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't want to go back and labor the point about content. It makes a point that, the stuff that I'm trying to do and that you're trying to do is to change the messaging a bit, make it a bit more fun, make it a bit more engaging, make it a bit more in touch with what the youth of today, not the youth of today, I sound like a really old man about to tell a dad joke or something, but the youth of today, what are they into? How do they consume content? How do they consume these? And then PRing the industry in that way, because there are, like I think you said in the chat before we started recording, there's a place for white papers. There's a place for the insurance trade press. There are people who want that. Actually, there are other people who, we have a great program in the UK called The Last Leg. And The Last Leg, it was set up around the Paralympics. And it was these kind of two comedians and Alex Brooker. That's a UK joke that anyone in the UK will get. It's meant to be three comedians, but he's not very funny. And they basically, they commentated on the Paralympics. And it then became a show that evolved into politics. And they talk about really intriguing things around politics. And they go into quite a bit of depth, and they'll explain things about this is how the vote's going to work. And this is how the US election is unfolding. But it's three comedians doing it in a really fun, engaging way. And that for me is how I want to present my insurance content. I'm not saying I'm a comedian. I'm not, though people do laugh at me regularly, normally without me meaning them to. But that's the way I want my content to be. I want it to be so that 20-something-year-old broker who's just starting out in his career, or the intern that's just started at a business, can watch it, learn something, feel like I'm speaking to them and that it's on a level that they can understand it, and ultimately can then better engage with insurance. We are dreadful at that as an industry. We talk at a high level. Mm-hmm. We talk at a high level as, I did a video the other day as well. I said that we're too guilty as not just an industry, as people, of thinking that using long words and terminology makes us clever. It doesn't make you clever. Do you know what makes you clever? What makes you clever is being understood by people. Using the right words to articulate yourself efficiently. He says using words like articulate and efficiency, but using words that anyone can understand to get your point across. That makes you clever. That's a good communicator, someone who's understood. And I think we need to do that more as an industry, make it more understandable to all of the people outside.
And I think there's an important difference. Like the policy form, the policy language is a contract, right? Yeah. Yes, that has to be complex by definition, especially here in the States with the throngs and throngs of lawyers. But there's no reason that the conversation around it, especially when we're talking about what the industry does, and we do a lot of great things, and especially when we're talking about how it is an awesome career, there's no reason that it needs to be stuffy, right? Leave that to the lawyers when they end up in court fighting over it. But the other 95% of the time, why don't we talk about insurance as the amazing thing it is, as the amazing service it is, and the important things it does for the economy and for people.
Insurance is awesome, and it's a really stable industry that's created a lot of jobs. It's a good industry to go in. It's not one that's going to die out anytime soon. People need insurance, and there's lots of different areas within insurance that you can work in. There's loads of things to love about it. But when you go back to, why can't we attract or retain talent within our industry? I'd actually, someone called me out on the post, and they were completely right. And I'm nervy about going into this but I'd add a number 11 onto my things I hate about the insurance industry. And I think it feeds number 7. And this is not one I feel necessarily that comfortable going into, but it's the fundamental lack of diversity and inclusion within the insurance industry. I mean, if you're a black 20-something gay guy and you're looking at the insurance industry, you're going, well, that isn't the industry for me, because I'm not going to get any opportunity there. Because if I look at all of the senior leadership, I look at every board of directors across it's a 55-year-old white middle-class male with salt and pepper hair, and who went to one of these schools in the United States or in the UK, one of the big schools. And that's it. And even I remember having a conversation with one of the ladies who I worked with at Allianz. She might remember this conversation. If a chance she happens to watch this. But if she watches it, then she'll remember the conversation. She told me off once because I was a broker development manager. So I arranged all the events to socialize with all of our clients at the kind of senior execs. And she said to me, I think it's a disgrace that every single event that you throw is targeted at men. Where's the event for, we want to do this for ladies, we want to have a ladies' day, we want to do that? I said, and I stopped her dead, which may be a bit rude, but I stopped her dead. I said, tell me this, what's my job? She went, it's to entertain the C-suite of the insurance brokers that we have. That's your job, is to get them there and make sure they have a good time. I went, okay, I have 20 brokers that I look after in this branch. How many of them have female directors? Call them out to me, how many they have, and then I'll call out the male directors that I'm trying to entertain. There was one female director amongst 5 directors at 20 companies. It was one female out of 100. And I said, no, that's why I put on golf days, because I can't change that. My job is to entertain the people that are there. It's not my job in that particular role. It's all of our jobs to create diversity and inclusion, but it's not my job to put on, if I put on a ladies' day, none of the guys are going to turn up. Like, what a disastrous event to put. Well, they might actually, if they're clever, they turn up to the ladies' day. They'd be the one guy at the ladies' day. But yeah, and I think that's another reason it's not a diverse one. And even I kind of look at the industry at times, and I think, actually, I'm too young. I'm too young to have a senior position.
I'm 38.
And I'm 37.
And I feel that they no longer see me as a baby. They see me like a teenager. Yeah, exactly.
It's very frustrating, and that's me as a white middle class, relatively well educated, and even I'm there going, I think there's a limit to how far I can get. Now, when I look at the other end, I just think it must be so demoralizing. And you look at the front of, I remember looking at a picture posted by one of the big publications over here, and it wasn't to make a point. It was literally, here is a roundtable event of insurance, and this is the front of our trade press. This is what insurance looks like to the world, and there was not a single woman there, and it was every single person was a man. I think the most diversity that was in that entire picture was that one guy had a grey suit on, whereas everyone else's was navy. That was the level of diversity in this picture, that I was counting what color suits they had on for the difference.
Yeah, I absolutely know what you mean.
And that to me, just that says, is that an industry that I want to, does that look visually, does that look like an industry that makes me go, I want to be there? That looks like where the action's at. Not really. Let's be honest. It's not very exciting, is it?
So on you're absolutely right. And on this side of the pond, lots of effort is being made. And I've seen numbers that something like 60% of insurance professionals in the US are women, and the number of diverse professionals is increasing.
Yeah.
So efforts are being made, but the leadership.
The leadership. Yeah. It's not the people in the industry. It's the presentation of that there is opportunity for those people to get on and get into those senior positions and to achieve their career aspirations. And let's be really, really clear about this, because I don't want to get dug out again. This is not a problem that is unique to the insurance industry. And I wouldn't ever want it to be suggested that I'm saying that insurance is the only industry in the world. Business as a whole has a problem with diversity and inclusion. Let's be really clear. But I do think it's particularly bad in certain points of in certain parts of insurance.
Yep. My very good friend Amy Weininger left Liberty Mutual about 2 years ago to become a diversity and inclusion consultant, trainer, speaker, etc. She leads a company called Lead at Any Level, and she's doing a lot of work in this space. And I think there's a lot of they're finally starting to understand the problem. Now, so I, as you know, as an optimist, I believe that we continue the work, and that 15 years from now, we will have a much more diverse leadership within the insurance industry. If we don't, we've blown it. And I will at some point. I'm 38 right now. If I'm 50 and or 53, and the insurance industry continues to be, the leadership continues to be as wide as it is today, I'll throw in the towel and be like, screw it, I'm done recruiting for this time industry.
So here's my concern about that. I completely agree. Here's my concern. Number 3 on my list. Everything moves so damn slowly in insurance.
Yes, but insurtech is forcing us, and COVID. So
yeah. COVID's had a big impact. I mean, how many insurers said, "Yeah, no, you couldn't ever work. You couldn't work from home. It couldn't ever happen." And then like a week later, they're like, "Yeah, everyone's working from home now. All we actually needed to do was invest about 10 grand in a phone system that really, and suddenly everyone's able to." It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think that between the changes brought in by COVID and the pressure brought in by the billions of dollars of investment that have come in through insurtech, I believe that we have a chance to bring change a lot faster than we have historically. But
that's an interesting point. You just said about COVID then. I think this is a really interesting point. We can't do X. Then COVID comes in and it turns out you can do X. So is the problem that everything moves slowly and everything changes slowly? Or actually what the real problem, I think, is that they don't want it to change. And when someone doesn't want something to change rather than it's difficult to change, that's a completely different challenge that we have. If it didn't change because it's difficult, now that's something we can surpass because we can throw technology at it, we can throw money. But if fundamentally the people who hold the purse strings and who dictate the strategy do not want to change, we don't want people to work from home because it doesn't suit us for them to work at home, that's a completely different battle. And that's one you'll never win, would be my view.
But I believe that it's a generational issue. The boomers, who are largely the leadership of insurance companies in the US today, are retiring. And they're being replaced by Gen Xers, who are a lot less everything. Every problem we just talked about, the Xers are a lot better than the boomers.
And the millennials are better than the Xers, and then the next generation are better than that. The point is, as long as and this is a really controversial view, not a rude view, but controversial because I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense. But this is the problem. As long as we always define someone's ability to be a leader by the amount of grey in their hair and how many years they have on the clock, and not by their ability to do the job, you will never catch that up. You will always have the people who are on their way out will always be at the top. And the people who are actually coming up with the new ideas. Now, you look at that from a technology perspective. If you want tomorrow, let's say I want new tech in my business. I want to get everyone the latest laptop. Who do you go to ask what about the latest laptop? Do you go to your 55-year-old father, or do you go to your 17-year-old brother? Like, you don't go to your 55-year-old, do you? Now, don't get me wrong. You might go to the expert in the shop and say, look, this is what he said. Can you talk me through from your experience? And but get those opinions of those youngerlings. And also, I don't think age should be I just completely reject this notion of you need to have earned your stripes.
100%.
An old company I worked for used to have this ethos of you can't get a promotion until you've moved to another part of the country. If you're not willing to uplift your life and go and work in a branch somewhere over there, we won't give you a senior position. What an absolutely stupid approach. Like, what kind of Neanderthal came up with that as a notion that, unless you're willing to uplift your whole life, you're not able to do the job that you otherwise might. How does that dictate it? What? Because I'm willing to sacrifice. You don't know what that sacrifice is for me. I might be moving away from an elderly relative. I might just be a real homebod who is really happy where they are. So I have to be miserable to prove to you that I'm capable of doing a job. Come on now. What are you? 10 years old? Don't be ridiculous. That's not even basic psychology. Yeah, and I just think all those kind of principles. We have a phrase in the UK. I don't know if you've heard this one. This is one of the most ridiculous phrases. We have a phrase in the UK, in London, which is like the epicenter of insurance, where they say there is a phrase, no brown in town. Not anything offensive. You mustn't wear anything that's brown in town. If you were to show up to a broker meeting and the shoes with your suit were brown, you're not going anywhere. If your suit has a brown fleck to it, you're not going anywhere. So you wear brown, so like just it's a color.
So brown's only for the weekends?
Yeah, brown isn't suitable. If you should not wear brown shoes. It's largely brown shoes that you should never wear. Your shoes should be black, and they should be. And I'm just like, and you wonder why we can't innovate as an industry when we got stupid stuff like that we're allowing to dictate someone's ability to do a job or someone's credibility based on a color. Like, really?
That is incredible. That's incredible.
That's an actual phrase, and it's an actual phrase that someone said to me. I was their mentee, and they said to me, I walked in, they went, "You need to get a new suit because in certain light that could look brown." It was a grey suit. Like, yeah, it could look brown if you're colorblind. It's like as much as anything. That's the only way that it could look brown is if you're colorblind. It didn't look remotely. But also, who cares? It was like, but you come across really well. And I was like, but you led with the suit. Like, what?
So I'm curious how my red jacket, Superman shirt, and alligator shoes would play.
It would just blow their minds. Like, they just would not be able to cope with the idea that someone had done something different. And that is part of the problem of the mentality around innovation, of why we're so far behind. It's this constant, I've got this really great bit of tech, for example, that you could deploy that's going to do this. And the first thing you get asked is, who else is using it? Why do you want anyone else to be? Surely you want to be the only ones using it, because if it's good, you're going to get a competitive advantage. But instead they look at it, yeah, but is Jim using it over at AXA? Is Barbara using it at Aviva? And that's how they judge whether something's good or not on whether it's good or not. They judge it by who else is using it, which is mental. And that's why we're so far behind, because everyone's always got to wait for someone else to take the jump. And yeah, what a shame, because we could be so much further. And I did a skit recently, and I put a post online about using and I'm not getting into politics here at all. I'm not touching it with a barge pole. But I wanted to make these hats that said kind of, make insurance great again. Or make insurance fun again, I wanted to say. No, was it great? Yeah, no, great again.
You could totally do that.
Yeah. And someone said to me, and I thought this was a really fair challenge. They said, was insurance ever great? And I went, do you know what? Actually, you're right. It's an industry that is full of potential. It has so many good qualities to it, and it has so many amazing things that we do, but I wouldn't say we've ever gotten near greatness. I think we've shown flashes of greatness, things that are great, things we've done, stories we can tell, but I don't think we've ever achieved greatness. I think we've always been looking up at where we could be from our current position. We've never kind of reached our potential as an industry. And I, for one, am determined that in my lifetime that, the actions that I take to tackle those challenges, you said to me when you're just moaning on LinkedIn, the actions I take and the steps I take and the things that I do will be things that drive this industry forward positively. And I believe that we can achieve that greatness.
Sign me up. Let me know how I can help. We'll leave it there. You have like 6 mic drop moments in the last 10 minutes of the conversation. I think this is officially the longest Professing Risk ever.
Yeah, I'm hoping for the people at home that you're going to cut this slightly, or they're just going to be there just like, oh, by the end of it.
Ed, this has been fantastic. The podcast is open to you. If you want to come back, you have the Calendly link. Just book another time, And I am
Amazing.
happy to have you on whenever, because this has been absolutely fantastic. And keep me posted how I can augment on this side of the Atlantic the great work you're doing over on the European side.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been
So
lots of
great.
fun.
Thank you for coming today.
You're very welcome.